I've been saying for years that we needed a sheep podcast focused on regenerative practices. Kelsey Keeling has done it.
Well, I have a bunch of questions on sheep. So why not start asking people these questions? And then, you know what? Why not share this on YouTube on the channel that we have and then let other people in on those conversations, learn right along with me.
We're also joined by her husband, Ryan, and we're going to have a conversation about the advantages sheep present in a livestock operation.
We can build a flock a lot faster. A ewe lamb, 50% of them will breed as little yearling. That changes the ball game. Less water requirement. That's one I really didn't account for. It's just simpler, and everybody says this, but I've really noticed it. It's just infrastructure. Cows just break things.
All that and more on this episode 405 of the Working Cows podcast, brought to you by the South Dakota Grassland Coalition and Ranch Right.
Welcome to the podcast that gives producers a platform to discuss and share paradigm-challenging practices. Practices that have increased the effectiveness of their operation and the joy that their families have received from this lifestyle.
Howdy, everybody. It's Clay Connery, host of the Working Cows podcast, recorded exclusively in the Understanding Ag studios. Very excited to be joined today by Ryan and Kelsey Keeling. Kelsey's recently started a podcast on her YouTube channel, the Balanced Ruminant Grazers channel. There will be links to that and other things that we discussed today in the show notes page at workingcows.net/405. Workingcows.net/405 is the show notes page for today. And we're going to talk to Ryan and Kelsey about the podcast that Kelsey has started, as well as how they've been making the transition from a ranch that was dominated by cattle grazing to one that will someday be dominated by sheep grazing, and some of the goals with soil health and some of the different practices that they have been implementing, like total grazing and using total grazing as a setup for pasture cropping and some of those things. So look forward to sharing this conversation with you right after a word from our sponsor today, the South Dakota Grassland Coalition. Coming up February 11th and 12th in Chamberlain, South Dakota at the Cedar Shores Resort is the Grassland Management School. This event is going to be a classroom session that will focus on educating landowners on the art and science of grassland restoration and management strategies. They're going to focus on creating landowner agency staff project teams, the perspective of private landowners planning for objectives like species mixes, wildlife, grazing, pollinators. Also going to talk about the chemical history considerations of the landscape and how we go about preparing sites to thrive. So if you're interested in that, you can find a link in the show notes page for today to register, or as always, you can go to sdgrass.org, and under the events tab, there will be the information there about getting registered. But coming your way, February 11th and 12th at the beautiful Cedar Shores Resort in Chamberlain, South Dakota, is the Grassland Management School from the South Dakota Grassland Coalition. Kelsey, Ryan, thanks for joining me today on the Working Cows podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, I was creeping around Facebook as I want to do and saw that you mentioned that you started a sheep podcast recently, so reached out based on that. And I've been saying for years that we need a sheep podcast in the industry, and glad to see you taking charge of that. So tell me a little bit about that, how that came to be and some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I started YouTube, I think like 3 years ago for our farm, and just kind of followed. At first, it was like cute little videos of our kids and stuff, doing chores. And then I found that a lot of people liked seeing what we do on the farm, farmers actually, and like, oh, maybe I can apply that to my farm. And then here recently, I've dived more into just showing our sheep stuff instead of doing cattle. And so we're doing some different things with sheep, doing a breed up program and stuff. So I am sharing that. And then I was like, well, I have a bunch of questions on sheep. So why not start asking people these questions? And then it was either going to be conversations with me just calling farmers on the phone, or I was like, you know what? Why not share this on YouTube on the channel that we have, and then let other people in on those conversations and learn right along with me. So,
yeah, that's a great format for a podcast, and I say that because it's been my format of just satisfying my curiosity and asking the next dumb question that comes to mind. And I'm sure lots of people are smacking their head thinking, why doesn't he know the answer to that question? But it's kind of been my education outlet over the last 7 years now. And so it's good to record you asking questions of other people and then share it with other people and let them learn along with you. I think that's been my approach anyways. It sounds like your approach as well.
Yeah. I mean, like we said earlier, we've been listening to your podcast for a while, but I was like, I mean, I think you've interviewed a few people with sheep, but I was like, there's a lot of questions that I have as a beginner or even like an intermediate. I can't talk, but yeah, why not ask those questions and record them?
Yeah, as like that was a lot of it. Like, so we're beginning sheep farmers. We don't know sheep, and a sheep is not a miniature cow.
Yes.
So we were going to ask the questions anyways. And she actually, the little nerdy part about this, she has a visual art degree from KU. So non-farming degree, but that degree, her world, podcasting and video work and editing, and that's all right up her alley.
Yeah.
So she loves it. So it's the furthest thing that I want to do, but
and yeah, no, that's great. How is the channel is Balanced Ruminant Grazers, right?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. What's the idea behind the channel and the name and those things?
Yeah. Ryan,
say first.
Ryan can go in about the name. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I put a lot of thought into that name. So I've been really big on this concept of balance. And I have been my entire life extremely unbalanced in everything I do. So, we want a balanced animal. We want an animal that can perform and be maternal. And we see so much, like, especially like in the cattle industry and just everything about humans, we go to extremes, so I have a degree in health promotion and wellness. So a non-farming degree as well, but so strength training is like one of my passions as a child, and you can train and train and train, but if you don't allow for that recovery, you just destroy yourself. Yep. You have to balance it. And so anyways, balanced ruminant just means a ruminant, whether that be a cow or a sheep, and grazers because we want to do everything on grass.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
It's funny. We can filter out people that are our target audience or not if they can say ruminant.
Yeah.
They're like, what is that word? And I'm like, okay, you're not for us.
Yep, for sure.
But yeah, we've been sharing, at first we started sharing our cow calf kind of stuff. And then I've transitioned to sharing our sheep in our breed up program that we're doing with, which is another whole like learning experience for us. Cause we have like a Katahdin base on our ewes. And then we are using a Australian white ram. And, like I said, bringing people along on that journey of like, okay, well, we bred them to this ram and they look okay, but like, what's going to happen when we breed them to this better set of genetics? And like visually being able to show people that, eventually we'd love to have people come out to the farm and actually see the animals instead of, because you can see quite a bit on video, but people seeing them in person is a whole nother ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Sure. Yep. And is there something in the water in Kansas that makes people prefer balance? Because that's all Craig Guffey ever talks about. I don't know if you know Craig Guffey at Swearingen Angus, but balance.
Well, since you brought him up, he is the one who first, I actually went to his farm after listening to the Working Cows podcast, actually, because Kelsey's from a small town north of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, but he kept talking about it the whole time we were there. And I don't even know. I don't have a personal relationship with him, but I kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And I swear for a year,
Yeah.
Man, you got to be balanced. Life is balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that's it. Yep. You got it. That's where
That's
we
funny.
got it from.
Good.
Initially, he gets the credit.
Hat tip to Craig Guffey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very good. And so jump into your story a little bit. How do you both go from non-farming degrees to what you're doing now?
We met in college, and then
Yep.
Ryan wanted to come home to the farm, which is his parents own a little less than a section.
Yep. So we have a small farm in South Central Kansas, and it's all connected. It's been in the family for, I don't know, 4 or 5 generations. But traditional cattle operation, cow-calf. Both my grandpa and my dad didn't make their living, primary living off the cattle. We were living in Lawrence. I was working in Kansas City, and I caught the regenerative ag bug through at the time Greg Judy, and just delved in, and the YouTube University, the whole thing, and said we have a farm, and said we're going to go home. And 2018, we came home. Yeah. Yep. And started from there. And it has been a bumpy road.
And you started with cows, then started with cow-calf. Is that right?
Yep. And I just jumped right in with all of the rotational grazing, rebuilding of infrastructure, which is still a complete work in progress, water lines, tree clearing. The story goes on, but all of it.
Another good thing to add was that we came home to a hodgepodge of cattle, though. It wasn't like we came home to like good, a set of genetics.
Correct. Everything. Yeah. My dad has hauled hay and cattle his whole life. It's all he's ever done. And so he's worked his butt off. Mm-hmm. And but his cattle theory was the ones that got out stayed as cows. And what it was. And zero emphasis on genetics. Bull stayed in year round. Since he was a hay hauler, he would always find reasonably priced hay. And so it was 5 to 6 bales per cow per year type of thing.
Right.
So, but anyways, that was the base, and that's where we started. And then I transitioned. I've been using some South Pole bulls. I've used a Craig Guffey bull, a Swearingen Angus bull, and seen a lot. We could go down rabbit holes, but that's since 2018 we've been here, so we're in 24.
And then we had always thought about sheep.
Yes.
Just from a multi-species standpoint.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
And knew that we wanted to get sheep. When I had a daycare in Kingman, and then by the time we had our 3rd child, I was like, well, I'm running a daycare with my own children. So decided to come home and work on the farm. And so then we were like, well, the sheep can kind of be my thing, and that I could help with, that would be safe around the kids and stuff. And so that's, I think, when we purchased sheep. We've been, I think we've had this will be our 4th lambing in spring. So a few years, but not a lot.
Still have cows then, or?
Currently, yes. And that's something else if you would like to get into, but transitioning down the cow herd significantly is the intention at this point. We're looking at going predominantly sheep, like maybe only keeping 20 cows just to have the multi-species aspect of it.
Mm-hmm. And talk about that and just the management of the multi-species piece of that. How do you guys handle them together? What's that look like?
Well, currently we don't.
Right.
So that is a future goal that we have, and there will be, because we have guard dogs. So, but I've seen it done. I know it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
I know it can be done. But currently we manage them in 2 separate spots.
Sure.
So sheep are in one spot with netting, cattle are in another spot with single wire, polywire.
Sure.
So,
Gotcha.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's been our challenge is the labor side of netting. You know, I always tell people the netting kind of for us has always acted as a guardian animal. I think we can only point to one loss inside of netting. But what is that? How have you guys managed that? How has the netting been working for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just purchased it this last spring.
Yep.
We had sheep. We had kind of gone through the drought, and then we were kind of in the recovery phase of the drought, but our grass wasn't bouncing back just yet. And so we were trying to move them around in different areas that we felt like we could keep them in, because our whole farm hasn't been set up for sheep yet. And
None of it had.
Yeah. Some areas we have 3-strand high tensile, and then most of it just has barbed wire or single strand for the cows. And so we were like, oh no,
what do we do?
Yeah, what do we do? We can't have them getting out. We have a major highway next to us. We have, So we ended up diving in and purchasing, I think, like 13 rolls of netting, which was a fun expense, of course.
Yeah.
And then we had dealt with netting for pigs and stuff. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, what are we getting into with, and you've heard all the horror stories of netting. Yeah. And, it really hasn't been that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's labor intensive.
It is.
But it's nice to know that they're going to stay behind it.
Yeah. If I could add to that, what we've kind of noticed a little bit, like, so when they want to get out is when you need the netting for us. Anyways, this is just our own personal experience, but we get away with polywire most of the year. And that's been really beneficial. Some people claim they can keep their sheep behind one strand of polywire. Well, we like to practice a more intensive grazing system, so it pushes them harder. But most of the year, three polywire fences tend to work. Yeah. But
Right. Yep. And that's kind of where we're at too. We've gotten as low as 2, but 2 isn't reliable. 3 is more reliable for keeping sheep in for us. And I think a lot of it, I'm not sure if it's boredom or hunger that will force a sheep out first, because it doesn't look like they should be hungry, and they don't look hungry, but they get out. So I think sometimes it's boredom that they're just like, oh, we've been here long enough, we're going to go somewhere else. And so they move. But I don't know if you guys have had that experience as well.
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. Yeah. They're fat, they're happy, and there's plenty of grass.
Right.
And here they are out of the fence.
Yeah, we just had it yesterday. They were down by the ram. He's contained, but we're like, why are you guys down here?
Let's take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsor today, Ranch Right. Death, taxes, and paperwork. Ranch Right can help you avoid one of them. If you're a successful business, you are probably paying some taxes. But that doesn't mean you have to be stuck inside preparing your paperwork for the accountant. Enlist a team of financial experts at Ranch Right to get you back outside to more of what you love. They are committed to providing you with actionable financials so that you can build a profitable business and create generational wealth. While some things in life are inevitable, being mystified by your numbers doesn't have to be one of them. If you're ready to entrust the paperwork to a team of financial experts that actually enjoys this type of stuff, then visit ranchrightllc.com and get back outside to the things you enjoy. So yeah, how has the transition been? Obviously, I'd say it must have been good because you're continuing to transition to more sheep. What have been some of the advantages for you guys?
I guess some of the things that we've seen on the advantages of sheep versus cattle. I kind of made a little list, but there's going to be a lot that I could add to it. But we can build a flock a lot faster. Mm-hmm. I had been attempting to build a cow herd from within, and the expense of that is pretty intense when you start thinking about keeping back most of your heifer crop and then waiting to breed at 2-year-old. And then if you don't put enough condition on, breed at 3-year-old. As compared to a ewe lamb, 50% of them will breed as little yearlings.
Wow.
And, you start thinking about another thing I notated, twinning. I mean, that's just that changes the ball game,
Yep.
and the breed we are working with is not a heavy twinning breed. The Australian white is not known for litters. But even a 1.2, 1.3% lamb crop, you're never going to do that on a cow herd.
Right. Well, I mean, you think about what's a good weaned calf crop, 90?
Yeah.
Yeah. 90%
Absolutely.
of those exposed anyways.
Sure.
Or less probably even than that of those exposed. Cause some guys I know would be plumb tickled with a 90% breed up, let alone the, fall out between preg checking and actual weaning, So, I mean, you start talking about a 1.2, that's at least 30% better than a cow herd.
That's right. That's right. But that, we will say, there's management involved in the aspect of like the lambing, the 1.3 and getting all of that to a weaning pen, to a sale barn. And we've got a lot more to do with that, but doing second lambs, mothers leaving lambs, different things like that. So, but still, yes, the advantage is absolutely there. Oh my goodness. Weed and brush management was another.
I've always thought that twinning in small ruminants is an indication that they're meant to, or the fact that you don't have a free martin when you have twins in small ruminants indicates to me that they're more designed, I would say, by God to have twins, right? Whereas if you have a male-female pair twins in cows, you got a free martin heifer, kind of an indication that that's not what we want. We don't want more of that, whereas it's not that way with goats, sheep. Those are perfectly fertile animals and actually the ones you want to select for in a lot of cases. If it comes down to keeping this ram versus that ram, probably a pretty strong tiebreaker is, was he a multiple, and keep him if he was,
Yes.
So
yes. And I had never heard that, but that's fascinating. That is one of our things that we want to work towards is, even though the Australian white is known for raising really good singles, I believe, I don't want to speak, but because they are a large deal in Australia. So they are far greater. I mean, we're just babies on this whole deal, but selecting for it, is one of the things that we want to do to try to get to 20, because it matters.
Yeah, so I think that's just American sheep in general. And somebody probably cast stones at me for saying this, but that we're just behind the Australians. And I think a lot of it actually has to do with our environment. I think a lot of at least in the wool side of things, they produce so far superior wool to what we can produce here because in large part due to their environment. And so they have a much finer wool product than we have, at least right now, as I understand it. So, caveat, but somebody can reach out and email me and tell me I'm wrong and come on the podcast and tell me and tell everybody else that I was wrong too. So that's fine. But, I do know that their average microns on their wool is a lot lower than ours, and lower is better, so that's good. I think ours is low enough. It's good enough that you can wear it and it doesn't make you itch, but, theirs is lower. And so that's good. But you were mentioning brush management. You want to delve into that a little more?
Oh, just what everybody says about them. One of the craziest things is, you can have a beautiful stand of warm season grass, right time of year, leafy green, and they will walk through that stuff and go find any square inch of a weed that they can find. And just we have hedge pretty heavy in this part of the world. And boy, they love hedge sprouts. And it's just, you see them do that. And we actually were kind of concerned a little bit about how would our sheep do on warm season grasses. And that's something, throw a word out there I know little about, but epigenetically, we want to improve upon as we get more and more ewe lambs that are born on this place, introduced to our grasses. So that's something we're working towards. And they're doing fine. They've transitioned fine. Yeah. So, but yeah, if you can turn a weed into $1, that's,
Yep, for sure. Ours is, and I think it's same in our country. Ours is sagebrush, and I think that a lot of these ranches where you've seen the sheep leave, you see the sagebrush come in after they leave. And it was always there and it was always going to be there, but they thrive on it and they keep it in check. And so I think that's one way to control that. So,
Yep.
for sure.
Yep. Okay. This one's an interesting one. If you kill one, it's not a $2,000 mistake.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, if you don't know what you're doing, you mess up. You didn't kill something that took 3 years to get in production or 2.5 years.
Right.
And, so
Yep.
yeah.
That's an impressive breed up that you mentioned, though. The 50% of those yearlings are getting bred. That's good. Do you think that there's something that you're doing there that helps make that happen? And I think this isn't a non sequitur. I think it's connected to what we were just talking about with developing them. And if they die, you didn't spend 3 years getting them into the herd kind of a thing. But do you think that there's something that you're doing that contributes to that? Or is that pretty normal from what you understand?
Yeah, I would say 50% is even lower than we'd like it to be. The Catons are really good mothers, and
Fertile.
yeah, fertile. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They're known for being fertile.
Yeah, but they're kind of like a smaller frame. So we're hoping the Australian white will put on some size with them. So our ewes are going to be that much more bigger and, at their whatever percentage of their body weight before breeding,
Sure.
that they're ready to be bred.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that so far. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we did. Kelsey is the one who headed the whole thing up, but we did embryo transfer to get. So we have some full blood Australian whites, just a few, but it has been fascinating to see the difference between those type of sheep. My goodness, those suckers grow. It's incredible. It's incredible how fast they grow and seem to do it on no input. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That part doesn't make sense to me because typically, if you have a high growth rate animal, it typically requires more input.
Yep.
But I don't know. But they're doing great, and that was another thing I had on the list was the Australian white, the ability to, if the market continues to develop to become a breeder, is something we didn't have the potential or opportunity to do within the cattle.
Yeah.
Because there's a ton of established cattle breeders all throughout the country, but the sheep market really hasn't been tapped yet in this country.
Yeah.
To the degree that we think it can be.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I think that's true. And again, startup costs, like you said, being what they are in the beef industry and people being established and having to compete for market share, just that makes that sheep direction all that much more attractive.
Right.
For sure.
Actually, I got a question, Clay.
Sure.
For you, I guess if you've noticed anything on the sheep side, I don't want to say this as a fact by any means, but the smaller sized of their manure, in my head, breaks down faster than a cow patty. I don't know. We've noticed green up in places we've grazed sheep faster. Then I don't know. I'm just saying, I know this is the working cows. Somebody might say you're crazy, but it's already in a pelletized form, ready to be incorporated into that soil faster.
Yep. Yeah. We were moving some the other day and I was watching them poop while we're moving them. And I'm like, it's kind of just already spread out, whereas cow patties tend to be more localized, even if they are the right consistency, they're going to stay in one spot. And so, no, I don't know what there is to it. Could be something about their grazing patterns, could be all of those things combined. We don't know all of it, right? We're managing holes and pull on one string and the whole thing moves, so it's kind of hard to tell what's actually making the difference. But I think that's right. Where that humility comes in, right? Just assume I don't know and I'm happy with the result and keep moving forward.
Yeah. We like it. Let's go, Yeah. I have a couple more. I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Less water requirement.
Yeah.
That's one I really didn't account for. Just simpler.
Right.
I don't know.
I think on the high end, what's a sheep need 5 gallons a day in a hot summer day?
Something
that's
like
right.
that.
Yeah.
And I think the low end is half a gallon a day, half to 5 gallons, I think is what I've seen. And then I've told this story before. Other people probably heard me say it, but I'll never forget standing around after church one Sunday and one of my trustees saying, "Oh, good, it snowed while we were in church. I won't have to worry about breaking ice for the sheep." It's like just a skiff of snow is all they need, and they're good on water.
Yes, it's incredible. Yeah, we're currently. I'm not recommending this. I'm just saying what we're doing, but we're soaking alfalfa pellets. So that then makes it all crumbly, and we're spreading that in feeders for their winter protein supplement when they're on that dry grass. And I think they're getting a lot of their water requirement from their alfalfa supplement.
Yep.
It's just, sure. I don't know. It's just cool, like you said, like the one string, it's all in a place, but yeah,
for sure.
Oh, this one I've really noticed a lot as compared to cattle. And everybody says this, but I've really noticed it is just infrastructure.
Yeah.
Cows just break things. They just break things. They're powerful.
There is an inordinate amount of twine on sheep operations that is actually useful. Like you'll just walk into the barn and there's a huge ball of it hanging on a hook. And then when you go to work sheep, there's, a lot of it gets taken off the hook and ties panels together. And like that actually works. It doesn't, there's no danger of them actually, there probably is if you really get to ramming and jamming on them, but it actually helps hold them in for the day and everybody's happy.
It's crazy.
And my place is no exception. Just so everybody knows.
We have about 140 ewes right now, and we still don't have we have the corral for the cattle, but we've had to just
jimmy rig it.
Yeah, Ryan's built a couple panels for us with some gates on it, which is just like small, but we made it work, kind of a thing, even with just growing numbers. We'll have to figure something out soon.
Infrastructure is still important,
right?
But it's just crazy what you can get away with, and just I don't know. Like I just specifically remember I like re-welded together a hay ring and got it all welded together, and I swear the same day those group of weaned calves just destroyed it. Just good night, guys.
Yep. Well, and we love if we can get our hands on square bales that are actually baling wire. That's the ultimate. Like you're a really high class sheep operation if you got baling wire instead of just regular old twine.
That's right. That's right. The ultimate.
But it is remarkable. So for sure.
So lots of advantages.
Yep. You mentioned a couple of times a breed up program. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we started after watching YouTube videos and stuff, I don't know what it was, maybe you could input, but we found we were really set on getting good genetics from the beginning. And I guess there was a couple different instances of why we chose that, but we chose, thankfully, genetics that were around us, a few, and then we got some from Missouri, I guess, and Oklahoma. And we've seen those ones that are closest to us, 30 minutes and then 40 minutes, perform, I would say, better than
slightly,
the ones from Oklahoma, especially. But we started with a Katahdin base, and then just
from operations that did not worm.
Yes.
Zero worm operations.
Yeah. So we knew what our fundamental things were that we wanted to have for our sheep flock. And then we stumbled upon the Australian white ram. We were trying to figure out what to do for a ram, and stumbled upon that. And we're like, well, let's give it a try. Why not?
Having no idea.
Yes.
No idea. And still not having any idea. But man, when you look at a sheep, you want a good muscular, they're just beautiful. They're just beautiful sheep. And I'm not saying you can't, this is something I've developed on too. They're like, I don't silo myself. A beautiful sheep's a beautiful sheep. There's beautiful Katahdins, and if I'm being brutally honest, I think cows are more beautiful than sheep, So, but I don't silo myself on it has to be an Angus cow. There's beautiful South Pole cows. There's beautiful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful animal is a beautiful animal. And but the Aussie white is a beautiful animal.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So yeah, we're
So we have
excited.
F1s.
Yes, we have F1s,
Yeah.
and then we are going, well, and then we ended up doing this embryo transfer process last year, and we did 6 embryos, which is not, everybody cautioned us against it because I think your conception rate is like 40 to 60%. That's a
Yeah.
range, maybe 50 to 60. It's not very good. And they're like, well, if you only do 6 embryos, you might not get any. And I'm like, I know, but that's all that we can really afford. And so we did embryo transfer with these lambs and got 6 for 6, which was a total God thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did 5 that were all the same set of genetics. Got 4 ewes and 1 ram out of that. And then we had 1 single that was a different set of genetics from those 5 and ended up being a ram. So it was really, we credit it to God, of course.
Yep.
But so this year we're really excited because we have those girls that are going to be ready to have a ram on them, and we'll have the new set of genetics. And it's still a learning curve of like who we're going to put with who, and when are we going to bring in new genetics for this breed up program. But it's good so far. We're loving our F1s and the size that they've put on that Katahdin frame of ewe.
Now there is, I guess, a potential downside to a bigger ewe, and it's just, I would consider it, same as what we all talk about in the cattle world, is that a smaller frame cow keeps better condition and is easier keeping and has less maintenance requirement and all that. But I guess
balance, though, right?
Yes, that's the hope. That's the hope, to stay focused on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Luke Jones from Understanding Ag is the president of the Australian White Association, as I understand it.
He just stepped down recently for some personal stuff. So now we, and goodness, thank you to him and Sana and David Kreider for doing all that. I did not realize, like, I was trying to get embryos the last time, and I think I called him like 5 different times, just trying to figure out different things with the embryos. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm bothering you. And, if you're the president in a startup association, that's kind of what you are signing up for. And so, so thankful to all of them for what they've done. Right now we have Doug Edge, who is of RSG in Indiana, and he is the new president of the association. And it's AAWSBA, so the American Australian White Sheep Breeders Association. So we're very excited for the future of it.
Nice. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Sounds like just good people involved in it, the right kind of people that you want involved in those kind of things, because I think a lot of times associations chase things that maybe don't add to the bottom line of the people raising the animals necessarily, and that's what you've got to avoid. That's where things get out of balance, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
The association, part of why we went with this association was that they're working with the developer of the breed, Graham, in Australia, and he is working with the association, getting the best genetics over here so we can get a good start on the breed. And so, yeah.
It's very, very startup phase still.
I know.
There's not many in the US, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool to get on the ground floor and maybe have some influence over the direction it heads, though, and some of that stuff. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So what's the future look like for you guys as far as the sheep and the cows? And, if you had to say in 5 years, we want to be here, what would that look like?
Sure. So, trying to keep it all in balance and perspective, because we also have 4 children. So we're busy.
Yep.
But we don't lease any ground. There is a lot of row crop around us. So there is just potential. I mean, just even grazing stocks, there's a lot of potential to work with people, and we're not doing any of it because we don't have the numbers to facilitate any of that. But currently, the 5-year aspect, we're looking for 500 ewes. We want to get to 500 ewes. That's the number. And that would be destocking the cow herd significantly to get to that. And we would be a predominantly sheep operation at that point and continuing to develop the Australian white here for sure. But my goodness. The other weird thing about math, which I'm very poor at, but you're talking about a large lambing crop at 500 ewes, and your ability then, if you do find leases, well, my goodness, your ability to increase the flock size at 100 ewes, when you multiply 1.2, it's a smaller number. But when you take that larger number and multiply the 1.2, you can, within a year or 2 years, expand that exponentially. So, but the other thing, and I'll let you talk too, honey, but soil health. Soil health, it matters.
Yeah.
And I have not focused on it at all, other than in our grazing system. Yep. But we have there are so many things out there to do with soil health that we have not even tapped at all. That can, I think of a farm not just growing in the number of acres, but growing vertically.
Yeah.
And that's a cool concept of being able to grow higher quality grass on your property and using, annuals and using cover crops and all the fun stuff. So,
yep. You got to make the pilgrimage to Dale Strickler and Greg Christensen's Sheep and Soil Health School. Is that what I'm hearing?
Okay. I didn't hear about that one. Ray Archuleta had one.
No, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Sorry. Yep, that was it.
Jeremiah Markway, and I was about to have a baby, I think, like the week of, and I was like, should I? No, but I
that's
really
the one I was
to go.
thinking of. You're right. Yep. No, that was the one I was thinking. That's the sheep and soil health one, and then there's but Greg Christensen and Dale Strickler do one together too, and they do cows and sheep, and it's you can take either or both portions of that, and I don't know. I mean, I think they've done it for multiple years now, so I'm assuming it's going to keep happening. But anyways, lots of good opportunities, especially in that Missouri, eastern Kansas and Missouri country. So, which is exciting to see. So, I think that the soil health piece of that, what are some of the things that are on your radar as far as practices or approaches for increasing that?
Well, that's what I was just going to add to what you said. I feel like we have learned so much, like with watching YouTube University, different things that we've learned with podcasts and stuff. Our problem is like a cash flow perspective. We can't implement all those all at the same time or, at the very startup of it. So we're trying to figure out which ones can we implement as we go. But what's our next one?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of them that are out there. There are so many, but two of them that really excite me, and I'm not making any claims, especially on one of them, but is a concept of pasture aeration. Yeah, and I'm not claiming it because I don't know that it works, but I'm going to try it. And I think about incorporating that sheep manure into the soil, and I'll just stop there on that one. But pasture aeration, I'm going to be playing around with that. And then the concept of double cropping. You want to call it double cropping, but pasture cropping. So, because we do a form of, I want to take that back. We don't currently practicing it by any means to where we would like to, but a form of total grazing with Jaime Elizondo's stuff. We're big fans. We believe in it, but it's extremely intensive, and that's a whole nother podcast. But you're setting that grass back so much. There is so by doing that though, you're creating a wonderful potential with all that urine, all that manure, and 90% of the forage removed to go in and no-till a cover crop into that. Yep. And we're in a 24 to 26 inch rainfall environment. We're arid, but we're not as arid as us. A lot of places. So there's just
we're 15 we're 15 or 16 inches here, so but no, it doesn't matter how much you get, it's all about how much you keep, right? But I think you're on the right track there. I think that basically total grazing is a pesticide free burn down. There
you go. I haven't heard that before.
I just made it up.
Oh, okay. Well, coin that one.
Yeah, that's how I do it. I just make things up. So
That's cool. That's cool.
if somebody wants to call me on it, they're welcome to come on and do that. But
Yeah.
but no,
Yeah.
I think that is really, I mean, you're honestly setting those roots back to the point that they're going to need a lot of time to recover. And the more
Yes.
arid you are, the more time they're going to need to recover,
Yes. Yes.
And so 90 days in Florida is 18 months or 2 years in Western South Dakota. Right. And so, but what do you do in the meantime? You're still going to get rain. And you could probably put a different root system in there that's going to do some things good for you, as far as the type of roots that are growing, contribute to different ways of breaking up compaction and all those things. So I think, it sure makes sense to me, and there's nothing wrong with trying it, experimenting small. But I want to hear more about pasture aeration. What is that? I've never heard of it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know
sure,
about lawn
sure.
aeration, but
Yeah. So it's a mechanical tool. I'm not recommending this, but I'm building one. You can buy them. But it's a mechanical tool you pull behind a tractor, and ours is going to be a blade system that you fill a drum full of water, and you are attempting to break your soil up without turning it. Obviously, we're not advocating of tillage, but one of my excitements with it is the concept of, in total grazing, you're putting down extreme impact on that land, and this is mimicking that in a way. I'm not calling it a mimic because you're not getting dung, manure, and saliva from the nose of the cow. I mean, there's so much more benefits in a ruminant, but you're able to do that without stressing your animals, or potentially stressing your animals. And so along with the aeration, using natural type products like, potentially, I don't know, but like some type of salt, like a C90 salt, or something that you could dry spread, and then as you're dry spreading, aerating in a single pass and putting some type of fertilizer, as I guess you could call it, or soil amendment, onto your land. But doing that directly behind an intensive grazing system, as that grass is already set back, we don't know what can be done. We don't. My goodness.
right.
You do something like that and allow a good, strong recovery period. How much tonnage? How much can you grow? We don't know. We're on poor soils. We're not. Northeast Kansas is real interesting. I'm guessing you probably know this, but I mean, Northeast Kansas is some of the richest soils in the world. And you go to the southwest corner, I mean, it's very arid, but we're extremely sandy here.
Right.
But we were predominantly warm season grasses. I'm jumping around, but one thing I wanted to notate on the total grazing or concepts of the areas that we obviously aren't touching during the growing season, we've seen an explosion of eastern gamma grass. And that's been really exciting.
Yeah.
We love that grass, obviously.
Right. Yeah. No, I think, again, like total grazing is a lot like bale grazing, where it's really good where you can get it done, but you can't get it done everywhere every year necessarily,
Right.
And so, and it takes a long time to get around to doing it everywhere, So I think that, it's a really slow way to improve land really fast, if that makes any sense. Like where I did it, it's way better than it would be otherwise, but it's going to take me a long time to get around to doing it everywhere. At least that's kind of our context. And so if you can do that and something else to improve other areas, faster, and, again, I'm all for experimenting small, and if it doesn't work out like I thought it could, then we'll try something else, so
That's right.
very good.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And sheep have a lot of, we have not total grazed sheep to this point. We do know it is possible. There are people doing it, but we are not those people yet. So there will be another learning curve there for sure.
One thing at a time, right?
Yeah. One day at a time.
Right.
I was just going to say too, it's been awesome to work with my husband for this kind of stuff because, I get to do the sheep genetics side. I get to dive into that. And then he gets to dive into the soil health kind of side and understand that more. I feel like it would be hard if you were the only one doing it. And
sure.
You had to know all of the sheep genetics. Embryo transfer would have never happened.
Yeah.
Being a breeder, probably breed up program probably would have never happened.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming when you're trying to figure out,
farming is overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm becoming more and more convinced that if you can find a way to get both parties, both halves of a marriage home to focus on the operation together, it's better, obviously. But it's better because you both have certain things you're going to be passionate about more than the other person necessarily. And so you can focus on those things, and each of you bring those pieces to the table, and it'll be better in the long run, I think.
Yeah.
So
me and Kelsey are opposites in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And I don't know if you're the same,
Yep.
your wife, but
Yep.
yeah.
We were just talking about that today because I've been talking about a sheep podcast for a long time, and she's kicked around the idea of doing it. And she's like, I'm not an extrovert, first of all. Secondly, I second guess myself about things I say in private conversations already. I wouldn't want to do that in front of, the whole world.
Yeah.
So she's
my
like,
goodness.
I just don't think it's for me.
Here. Yeah.
Well, I'm not a public speaker by any means. I told my family that I was doing a podcast, and they're like, wait a second, you wouldn't even call such and such place like when you were in high school. I was like, I'm changing. I'm growing up, I guess, guys.
Yeah.
So
Very good.
it's fun to step outside of your comfort zone sometimes.
It is.
And we're kind of remiss, probably. We just mentioned that you had a podcast. We didn't mention the name, so I don't think, right?
I don't think so. Feed the Sheep is what it's called.
I like it. Yep. And and they can get it kind of anywhere they get podcasts, right?
Yeah, I have it on YouTube, so you can watch video of it. But then, Apple, Spotify, and then YouTube podcasts. So
yep, those are the three big ones. Be there if you're going to be anywhere. So good work. Appreciate you taking the ram by the horns, I guess, and getting started. So
except we call for that. We call
right,
for
yeah,
that.
Those are pulled animals you're after, right? No, but
yeah.
No, I appreciate you guys' time today. I really do. Thank you for taking the time to share a little bit about what you got going on, and nice work starting the podcast. Thank you.
Yes, thank you,
man. That was great, Clay. Thanks for reaching out.
Very good stuff there from Ryan and Kelsey. If you listened all the way through the end of last week, of Friday's episode with Gabe Brown and Alan Williams, you heard me say that the next episode would be a talk I gave at the South Dakota Grassland Coalition's annual conference in Rapid City, South Dakota. Well, obviously that wasn't true, but it will be the episode you hear next on the Working Cows podcast. So looking forward to sharing that episode with you, coming your way real soon on another episode of the Working Cows podcast.
We invite you to visit workingcows.net to subscribe to the show via iTunes or Stitcher. You'll also find detailed show notes pages, resources from our guests, and the industry leaders who have influenced them. For more ideas on putting your cows to work for you in a more profitable way, tune in next week.